So we've had this pretty awesome Les Paul Studio in. It's a bit of a setup. Let's get the strings off. We'll see what's what, and then we'll start getting her ready. So now the strings are out the way, we can have a look and see what's occurring. There's been some damage done here somehow. The owner told me that when he picked it up, he was told that something had been dropped on it. Although what would get dropped on it to cause those lines in the finish, I cannot imagine. But structurally it looks okay. We'll give these a clean and a bit of a shine up. Fretboard needs cleaning. We'll get the frets polished. The tuners actually felt nice and firm and solid. They're very positive, so happy with those. But let's get the truss rod cover off and see what that's hiding. Typical Gibson truss rod nut. Well, it actually looks quite clean in there, to be honest. Usually you get loads of crud left over from the finish, but that's looking quite nice and clean. So got a bit of crackle on the pots, so I'm getting into the back. We can have a look at a bit of switch cleaner in. We've got a Gibson preloaded harness with quick connectors, etc. But yeah, this is part of the reason why Gibson get a bad rap on QC, because the guitars I make, I do not leave this in any of the cavities because it looks untidy and it's a mess. So yeah, points off there, but it does look very genuine and authentic. Right, so I've just put a bit of contact cleaner into the pots. And there we go. No crackle. One of the first things I do when I've got a guitar I'm setting up, once I've got the strings off, check the tuners, the fittings, the screws, and I'll be honest, as yet there's not one guitar where I haven't had to tighten something. So just right, time to check the neck. So got a box spanner that fits this truss nut. Yeah, truss rod is nice and free and moving. So let's see where the neck is. Fingerboard, I should say. Right, bit of back boat, so let's give that a little turn. So I'm just using my hand over the top of the straight edge to make it easier to see if any light is coming through underneath on the fingerboard. Yeah, that looks good. So now we've got the neck in a neutral position. We can check the frets to see how they are. You can tell it's been played, but there's no wearing or pitting as yet, so we don't need to worry about any refretting or anything like that. So now I'm just checking, see if we've got any high frets anywhere with this fret rocker, and just go along checking, several places along the frets. So far, these are good. You'll hear it when there's a high fret because you'll hear it clicking. Oh. Very slight, very slight at the body joint. So from the whole fingerboard, we've got a very small amount of rock around the 16th fret, which, to be honest, isn't enough to justify doing a level and recrown. That means we can start making things shiny. So I'm masking off the fretboard here just to protect it while I'll get ready for polishing the frets. Now, this does seem to be something of a tedious job, but it's very much worth doing because it just saves you from nicking the fretboard with the fret end files that I'm using there, just to round over the ends of the frets and make them a little bit more comfortable to play. And when that's done, going over each fret with an abrasive pad. I've got several grits of these. It just helps remove any scratches or residual gunk that's left stuck to the frets from playing. And once that's done, then we start on the fret rubbers. So again, go over each fret, down the sides, around the top, and just gradually make them more and more shiny. So I'll go in two directions with these fret rubbers. I'll start by going along the fretboard, and when you do that, you see the crown a lot easier. And then I go across the fret and polish those marks off as I go. These crimson rubbers are really good. They leave a really good finish. So now we're cleaning up the fingerboard and the body of the guitar, getting rid of any old grime gunk, getting into the nooks and crannies with a cotton bud, and now we can start to apply some oil on the fingerboard just to bring it back to life and give it a bit more luster. Just apply, leave it for a few minutes, and then rub it off, and you're left with a really pretty ebony fingerboard. So now we're getting some new strings on it. I've got some Ernie balls, and just loading up the tailpiece so I can do all the strings in one go. Makes life a bit easier. Now, for stringing a guitar, go through the tuning head and just give yourself enough strings so you can reach the next tuning head along, which for me is 3 finger widths, and through the hole, wrap it round, pull it tight, and then just wind the string up, and just the coils go underneath and hold it tight in the tuning peg. So now all the strings are on, we can start getting this guitar tuned up and start the setup. So once it's at pitch, we start stretching all of the slack out the strings and just keep repeating that until they stay where they are. And once it's settled down, we check the relief in the fingerboard, in the neck. So I'm setting this to 0.2 of a mil, or 0.08 inch for our American cousins across the pond. Just gives enough relief so it'll play nicely, and getting the action set, making sure the strings ring out on all the frets nicely, we don't get any binding or anything like that. And that takes us to intonation. Now this is just making sure that the strings are in tune across the whole fingerboard. So I'm comparing the open string with the 12th fret harmonic and the 12th fretted note, and they should all be the same pitch. So in this case,
they're not quite there, so I need to adjust the saddles. Now it was slightly flat, so I'm adjusting the saddles forwards. So I need to shorten the strings slightly. This will change the pitch of the string across the whole of the fretboard. But once you've got the open 12th fret, 12th harmonic at the same pitch, then your guitar's intonated and it's good to play, and it will stay in tune while you're playing it. So final thing, just checking the height of the strings above the nut, and then we can snip the excess strings away, and that's it, she's done.
So that's how I set up a guitar. Quite simple, just go through each step. It's a balancing act between the steps more than anything else, and each guitar is slightly different, so you have to find the sweet spot. I'll let it sit overnight, get used to having strings back on, and I'll check through everything again tomorrow, and then we'll get it back to the owner. So if you found it useful or you enjoyed it, hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.